Welcome back to another episode of the Crime Scene Insiders. I'm one of your hosts, Angela Davies, and I'm here with my co-host, Dion Watson. And we're going to take you back under the barrier tape.
In today's episode of the Crime Scene Insiders, we are joined by the very inspirational Joanne Mackel. And Joanne is a former Detective Sergeant from Northumbria Police, which is the police force that Angela and I used to work at as well. Joanne specialised in serious investigations and she has a wealth of experience. And Joanne often paved the way for women in a very male-dominated environment. Joanne's reasons for joining the police force and her motivation for joining is a very unique story and very personal. Joanne is the daughter of Anne Law, who was reported missing from her home in Newcastle in March 1973. Anne's case is now Northumbria Police's longest missing persons investigation. Anne's body has sadly never been found, but it's been long believed that she was murdered and buried by her husband, Joanne's dad, Gilbert Law. And Joanne has shared her story in the acclaimed 6-part podcast series, Dig Up Your Mam, where she goes into a lot of information about the background of Anne's case and her experiences with it. But today she has joined us to talk about her memories, her work in policing, and also talk about her fight to uncover the truth about what happened with her mum, Anne. So thank you so much for joining us today, Joanne.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you for having me. That is a lovely introduction. Thank you.
Well, it's fantastic to have you. We really appreciate you coming on. We met you at a podcasting event a good few months ago now, didn't we? And we were fascinated by your story. So we are so pleased that you've decided to come on and join us today. So thank you.
Thank you for including me.
To get us started, we wondered if you would mind telling us a bit about your memories of your younger years and what you remember about your mum going missing in the beginning.
Okay, so it's probably easier just to say about the podcast because that covers it all. I remember lots of memories of my mum skipping to school. My mum was an identical twin sister. And when I say identical, they were absolutely identical, except in personality. My mum was a loud, gregarious like me, and her sister was quiet and shy. These two girls were very loved, very naive, lived in the West End terraces of Newcastle. They were about 15. They met these two men, one called Gilbert, which was my dad, and one called Eric, which was my dad's best friend. They were a bit older, about 10 years older than these two girls, but they started courting and had, quite lengthy courtships, 7 or 8 years each. And eventually both of these girls got married. These two men, I believe, through my digging, through my knowledge over the last 50 years, from police records, social services records, mental health records, hospital records, my dad was certainly quite happy to admit that he was gay. And it's more complicated than that because he was schizophrenic and had a few personalities within him. And it's hard to explain, but one of those personalities was gay. And Eric was clearly gay, although in that time you'd hit it very well because it was a criminal offence. It says more about how horrible society was and how intolerant people weren't allowed to be themselves. But they had a good friendship. They used to go off camping. They used to cycle to the youth hostels around Northumberland and go to beauty spots to have these precious moments together, I would imagine. But my dad really did love Eric. It was his first love. Anyway, they married these two girls who lived like literally 2 streets away from each other. And I think what they did was they married 2 twin sisters as foils for that relationship because the twins would always want to be together. So therefore the men could always be together.
It was a very different time then, wasn't it?
Very different. And I think they embraced family life as best they could. Both of the twins had 2 children, me and my brother, Trevor, and the twin sister had 2 children. So technically her 2 children are a kind of DNA. we're talking about a forensic podcast, they're technically DNA-wise my half brother and sister, because the mothers were identical twins and had the same DNA
Same DNA
profile.
coming through.
So we were all very close. Eric kind of moved Margaret away because I think the relationship between the men broke down because of the other added pressures of family life. And he moved to Gateshead and isolated one twin really for a while. And actually, that isolation caused problems. Anyway, Eric started sending money to my mum in the post anonymously, £1 a week. We don't know what that was for. Yeah, we don't know what that was for. We don't know whether it was gag money, because she knew,
Okay.
or we don't know whether he's being kind. But it was very weird, and he was doing it anonymously.
Yeah.
And it was their mother, my maternal grandmother, who recognised the handwriting and said, "That's Eric's." Of course, it came out in the family, and all hell broke loose, which isolated the twins even more from each other. Anyway, very weird setup. My mum had suffered quite bad domestic violence from my dad over the years. He was quite, I mean, she describes him as moody. He's schizophrenic. And he was paranoid. He was accusing her. Of course, these letters that came through the door with money in them from a man didn't help. And I mean, I've walked into the room when he was beating 10 legs out of her. And she used to use me as a human shield. So every photograph I've got as a baby, I'm kind of wincing from a camera because somebody's pointing something in my face, and I'm being held by my mum. So I'm probably expecting. I've got that kind of frozen awareness of a child, you know, who's constantly surrounded by violence.
That must have been
Anyway,
horrific.
Must have.
well, I mean, I didn't know any different, and yeah, I mean, it was horrific for her when a woman has to use a child as a human shield to protect her from another beating is a last resort and actually quite horrific. So anyway, my mum decided she was going to. My dad did a few odd things. He tried to kill her a few times, which is in the podcast. Eventually, culminating in being taken into a mental hospital, where he was diagnosed then as a paranoid schizophrenic. Of course, my mother had an excuse for this violence. She kind of went, "Oh my God, he's just ill. You don't leave your husband because he's ill. I mean, I wouldn't leave my husband if he was ill." And she did love him in some mad way. I think by then she probably didn't. Like, I think she was a bit sick. But her options weren't there. She didn't have many options for women.
Again,
Believe it.
It's a different time as well, in a different generation. Like back then, when people married, they married for life, no matter what.
And you put up with it. I think our own parents said, "You've made your bed, lie in it." But they all saw her with injuries to her face, to her body, to her legs, to her eardrums, burst eardrums. You know, she was in hospital. He was a violent 6-foot bloke. She was a tiny, thin, 5'6", very thin. She was even more thin because of the stress.
Yeah. And so she's living in a time where things around sexuality is completely different and is in fact illegal. Time when mental health is not really recognized or understood. And then also a time where marriage is kind of given. You get married, you stay married. It's a really kind of difficult mix of circumstances all in there, isn't it?
It's almost a universal story, the domestic violence. There's 3 women a week being murdered in the UK alone through violent men. And I think things haven't changed, except that the violence is worse. But in them days, in 1970, 1973, didn't report it. Bizarrely, my mum was trying to report it. She reported it to anyone who'd listen, psychiatrists, his psychiatrists, doctors, her own GP, social services, just screaming for help. And of course, all our family knew as well, but nobody really intervened because they're all sick of it. And they were all, you know, I've got my own opinions on what I think about them. Anyway, so that part of my mum's story is quite a universal story of women struggling with children, nowhere to go, and domestic violence, fear of losing everything. Bear in mind, in 1973, there wasn't any women's hospitals or refuges like there is now. And people did poo-poo it, like, well, you've made your bed, lie in it, that's your lot. What's unusual about it, she did divorce, and my dad was in the Merchant Navy. So a respite from the violence was that he did like travel away for 6 months, 9 months, sometimes 3 months on different merchant ships. He travelled the whole world. He was a second engineer, quite clever man. But she divorced him in his absence, sick of it. And I've got a degree in NICI, which so everything on the podcast is factually correct. I've verified it with all of the records that people kept, and I've done a lot of searching for all of those documents, official documents. So it's not me saying what happened. These are other people writing these facts down from them. Anyway, she got divorced, and a divorce absolute was due on the 4th of April. So she'd had her degree in this eye, granted. My dad was away in the Merchant Navy till the 28th of February, and he came back in 1973. And he came back and he spent a couple of days at his mum's house, which was about a mile from their marital home. But obviously, he wanted to go and live with his wife because he didn't recognise that he was divorced, didn't want to be divorced. So he just walked in and she's saying, "You've got to go." Police came. Police said, "Well, just go and be in the spare room," kind of thing. His solicitor advised my dad, don't stay there. I mean, yeah, not she had no option.
The police said it was okay for him to be there.
Well, the police didn't remove him because they came to an arrangement where he would stay in the spare room.
Okay.
You know, and in those days, you know, you didn't have a mobile phone. Police officers, well, don't get me started on police officers, but they were absolutely crap at their jobs. And women didn't count. It's almost misogyny. My dad was able to conduct a narrative that those police officers believed. My wife's on antidepressants, you know, she's a bit down in the dumps and I've got to look after these kids and whatever. And he was believed because the police never isolated the women or did anything to protect the woman that would do now.
And because he's a man.
Yeah. It was an absolute penis club, the police, wasn't it?
Yeah. And, back.
And actually, so was the world at that time. So she was married on her birthday because my granddad wouldn't allow her to get married till she was 21 because he didn't want her to marry this man. So really sadly, she was murdered, or she disappeared, on the day of her birthday. And the cause of that, I think, was she was going to go out and spend a birthday with her twin sister. It was also Mother's Day nearly that week. So they planned on going to see their mother the next day for Mother's Day. And of course, it was my mum and dad's wedding anniversary. My dad was saying, "Hang on a minute, you spend the day with me." We heard a row, me and my brother. I didn't hear it, my brother heard it. He was 9, I was 5. I'd have been flat out. And I shared the marital bed with my mum. I was in the double bed every night. Every night for as long as I can remember. I woke up next to my mum. And my brother went downstairs. This is his version of events. And he heard the shouting. I mean, they were in a semi-detached house. So I think people on the other side of that wall would have heard it as well. And then he heard it stop. And he went down to see if my mum was okay on the pretense of saying, "Can I have a glass of water?" And of course, when he went down, my mum was lying on the ground. Now, she could have been unconscious. She could have been knocked out. We don't know to this day. But my dad said, "She's all right, son, go back to bed." And he did, because he was frightened of his dad, you know. His dad had exhibited.
But 9's a really young age, and to see your mum laid out like that must have been awful. Like, what do you do with that at 9? It's so hard.
He carried it for the rest of his life, you know. And of course, he didn't really trust the police, didn't like the police because they'd let him down so many times. He'd seen this violence, the police rock up and do nothing.
Do nothing about it.
He had no time for the police. None of my family did, ironically. Maybe that's why I became a cop.
Did you become the black sheep?
Well, you know, I was definitely the black sheep. I was definitely, you know, why did you join the police to piss me dad off? Is not the right thing to say, is it? But, anyway, she disappeared completely. Nobody saw her. The next day, obviously, she was going to meet her twin sister. Her twin sister came to the house. First thing she said to Gilbert, and I was standing behind his legs, so I remember it really vividly. "If you've done something to her, I'll swing for you." And she maintained that you'd done something to her. She reported her missing a few hours later. I haven't got the initial missing from home paper because the police will not give me those details or the details of the police officer who attended, because as you can imagine, I've got quite a few questions for him.
I bet.
Well, yeah.
But,
And did they restrict that from you whilst in Forced or when you left Forced?
All the time. I mean,
always.
I'm still in a battle with them. Anyway, she disappeared off the face of the earth, and she hasn't been found since. She hasn't been seen. Our wages were left in the bank. My dad actually put us into care. He jumped on a boat because I've got his Merchant Navy records, and he was in Trinidad and Tobago 5 weeks later from Southampton. Bear in mind, it's 1973, and a merchant ship would make pickups and drop-offs on the way. So he didn't waste any time.
It was a fast exit, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Fast exit. All my mum's jewellery and her clothes were sold in Hexham Market within 2 weeks. He knew she wasn't coming back.
He did. I mean, you don't go selling clothes and jewellery, do you, if you think somebody's coming back?
But the police didn't investigate any of this. They didn't look into it. This was me investigating it later on. So anyway, she remains the longest missing from home in Northumbria Police. During my investigations as well, in that year, there was 3 other women who were murdered in Newcastle who have got unsolved murders. So in my head, I'm thinking, did she walk out? Did she walk out and was murdered by a serial killer? Very, very unlikely. She didn't really leave that house. But because I don't have closure and there's no proof of life, I always wonder, what if I've persecuted my dad all these years and actually
she did walk out.
There's about 3 more undetected. Sounds terrible, the Northeast, isn't it? It was just that moment in time. Might have been my dad. My dad might have been the serial killer. Who knows? Try to put 6.5 hours of podcast into 10 minutes there.
I mean, people will hopefully go and listen to the podcast, Dig Up Your Mam, because it is fascinating and also quite harrowing. And it is really good for our listeners to get a feel of your background kind of as we move through this.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. It's Julie Bindel's platform. She's the journalist who put it together. She founded with her partner, Harriet Wistridge, the Centre for Justice for Women. And I was wanting some legal advice that I couldn't get anywhere, and turned into this. But other journalists had started making it. They'd created like Instagram profiles for my mum. It started a podcast called Unseen, and she was featured on an episode. And they were getting quite a lot of facts, because you can literally Google about 500 pages of the press coverage of my dad's trial. So Julie Bindel was the right reporter, because she spent her life in women's issues, women's violence. You know, when I first met her, I just thought, oh my God, this is the first journalist I've found who's really, really bang on. She just gets this straight away, you know.
So was it that wanting to put the facts straight, wanting to tell the real story instead of other people trying to tell your story?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And of course, 10 years passed and we were in the care system, a brutal care arrangement we were in. Me and my brother were both terribly abused, sexually, physically, emotionally, you name it, we were abused. Me by 2 paedophiles who lived there. And my brother was like 5 years older than me. So he was free of that care system. He was just out and about and doing his thing. But my dad took him one night. He went into the garage, got 2 spades and said to me brother and my cousin, come on, I'll show you where your mum is. In the middle of the night, he took them up to Bywell and Stocksfield near Hexham and started digging at this beauty spot. When they'd got there, the ground had already been disturbed a bit, because I think he'd probably been there a bit more. Yeah. And the podcast, if you listen to the podcast, you know, the fear in them, thinking that they might have been digging their own graves and they didn't know what was going on.
Must have been terrifying.
Terrifying. Plus, of course, you know, we live in Northumberland, the dark sky policies here. That's why everyone flocks from all over the world to look at the stars, because there's no light pollution. So it was literally pitch black.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'll let listeners listen to the podcast, because my cousin actually describes that incredibly well in detail, and how terrifying it was. But anyway, the boys went to the police station because they just got totally spooked. Left me dad digging for my mum's body. And he's saying things like, I put her head here, I put her head towards the river. She's in a fetal position. I put a coat over her, a leather coat, and then I put the sand on her.
That's an incredible amount of detail, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, it is. And they went to the police station, these two young lads, didn't get believed because they were little rugrats from the West End of Newcastle. Police started laughing at them. So they went to the twin sister and she raised the flag. And then, of course, the entourage came on, a big dig. My dad was charged, went into court. He confessed to the murder because the police put my brother in the cell with him at the West End. My dad was just crazy, he was really, mental health had really deteriorated.
Yeah.
And I saw some mug shots of him when he was in custody then, and he did look very, very unwell. But they put my brother in to get the confession. They used anything they could. And of course, the confession, he didn't have a body. So they put him on trial 3 times in total between 1982 and 1985. But my dad's mental health, it kept deteriorating because he couldn't stand what was happening to him. So the judge eventually kicked the case out at the moot hall and said, basically, police, you haven't got a case to answer. You've got the confession of somebody who's very mentally unwell and you haven't found a body. And my dad had said what triggered him was, do you know the television video, Men at Work video, we come from a land down under, and there was heads in the sand on the video.
Yes.
It was that pop video that triggered my dad off to go and dig her up.
Really?
There you go. Yeah. So my podcast is just a true crime story, verified factually. I'm in it, obviously, all the way, swearing my head off and being the usual self. And it's the story of my mum and the universal story of domestic violence.
It is, and it is very harrowing. How was your dad as a dad when you were younger? I know you talked about flinching when you were really young and not kind of being fully aware of that because you were too young. But do you recall like any good times with your dad, or was he a good?
Yeah. And my dad had 3 distinct different personalities in his schizophrenia. It was a very complex schizophrenic man. But when he was Gilbert, the mom, the dad, the husband, he was just like anybody else. He was quite quiet, reserved, very intelligent. But I have good memories of him, taking me out for ice lollies, taking me out, used to give me an old penny every day. And we used to go on a Saturday down to the sweet shop. He used to take me out my trike. I lay on his chest when I had chicken pox when I was a toddler. I was a daddy's girl, really. And right through my life, Gilbert absolutely loved us. I don't think I loved him back too much, but he was my dad. I mean, he was a really crap dad. I didn't know that at the time.
Yeah.
Really, really crap dad. That's kind of the underestimated sentence of the century, isn't it? One parent who murdered the other parent. Crap dad, But he also suffered from a terrible, terrible mental illness.
That must have been so confusing for you as a young one. You said you were 5 when Mam went missing. To have that, see the different personalities. Do you only recognise that now, reflecting back the different personalities he had?
Yeah, and as I grew, you start to understand. But don't forget, until you dug her up 10 years later, she was missing. So I was waiting for her to come back.
Yeah.
But then you deal with all that rejection. Has my mum left? What's wrong with me? That my mum didn't want to stay. And that was a terrible, terrible message to give me brother, perpetuated by the family, by both sides of the family, because they just didn't know. And actually, crucially, because of the mistakes the police made. The police had done their job in hindsight, or do you know what? Even then, 1973, they weren't brain dead, although they did act like they were brain dead. You still say, well, hang on a minute. You still turn up the next day and say how she turned up. What's happening here? It was raising it. Because she was a housewife in the West End with no agency. If she'd been the breadwinner, she'd had a different response.
I think
kind of a social comment, isn't it? Yeah.
It is, yeah, and the state of society then. And sometimes I wonder how much it has changed. I think we have come a long way, but I think there's still a lot of that and a lot of misogyny that exists, actually. It's also some of it as well, even though you can put that social context on it, you just think, oh, it's policing 101, isn't it? We were crime scene investigators, but we still had to do some training and worked in the police. And even for us, you think it's policing 101.
Yeah. And you know what? If there's two messages that come from it, because my mum was creeping around her family. She wasn't creeping, she was screaming out loud, please, please help me. She was running away from them, going staying with relatives who then sent her back. And that still happens now. Everybody would prefer to put their head in the sand and ignore what's happening in their own family. Well, get your head out the sand and offer sanctuary. Do something. Stop it. 3 of us are getting murdered every week. 3 of us.
Still, that's the horrific statistics, aren't they?
How many families and children left behind? 90% of men are great and they're lovely. And I think even being in the police force showed me that. I married an absolute diamond. Thank his mother every day for him. And he's been a really good dad. And I didn't realise that that's what a dad behaved like until I got married and had children and saw his behaviour towards his children. But there is 10% of angry men. And if you're throwing your testosterone around, if you don't have any self-awareness of who you are, this is to all the men, don't think you are a good dad if you're abusing the mother of the children. You're a terrible dad. I was speaking to quite a clever professor the other day who said, when you're young, when you're a young man, you're full of testosterone, you're full of anger and dead horny. And the way I did it with my son was I made them run, I put them to exercise, I showed them that they're two beasts, these two beasts, they've got a dog and a bear. And we'll have to manage both of these till they can learn to control them themselves. And it's about that kind of behaviour. If you have sons who are full of hell, it's nature, it's what happens. We have a surge in estrogen, we can't be bothered, we want to lie and eat pizza all day. They have a surge in testosterone, which makes them horny and angry. And that combination, as well as the society pressures of carrying knives and things, has become lethal to women. Lethal.
It has. It's significantly increasing. And I think that some of the attitudes as well, because a lot of people justify it, don't they? Or he's had a really bad time, or he's had a drink. There's a lot of justification that goes on around this kind of behaviour, I think, in domestic violence. But I think some of the other trouble is as well, and you'll probably be able to speak to this better than us, Joanne, but is the increase in violence. There's still an increase in violence against women, but also the criminal justice system's letting people down. It's fewer than 6% of cases, which is violent crime, whether it's like physical or sexual, against women that are actually getting to court, and then even fewer where we're getting justice.
Yeah.
And it's worse than ever.
Yeah.
And the criminal justice system's absolutely, utterly shot to bits, broken. And I've used the criminal justice system once for the murder of my mother and once to take the paedophiles who sexually abused me to court, and being let down both times. And that starts at the very beginning with the police officers and the gatherers of evidence. So thank God CSIs were brought in, like yourselves, trained professionals who do an absolutely brilliant job. Before we had that, when I first joined the police officers bungled over scenes and lost evidence. I'm hoping that the police have got it together a bit better. But obviously the budgets were cut, we lost your expertise in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And that's a travesty every way. Why would they do that? Why would they do the first tool that detects crime? Why would they reduce that? And I know policing, there's a lot of branches to policing and a lot of areas that have to be covered. And I'm a firm advocate for don't leave policing to the police, because there's too much of it and we can't do every job. There needs to be separate departments.
Yeah, it's true.
Things. But also for doing that, what about the criminal justice system? Why is it you train barristers and lawyers to specialise in, for example, sexual offences or organised crime or whatever? Why aren't we training the judges so that we get standalone courts just for violence against families, women, sexual offences? Because that judge, his job every day is to sit in the court And there might be a breach of a restraining order, there might be a theft of a car, there might be criminal damage to half the city centre, there might be a burglary, a robbery, and then a child who's been raped. But that judge does a job, but the presentation of evidence in these specific cases, sexual offence and murders, need a specialised judge, specialised barristers, and specialised rules, because the evidence is different. You know,
it is.
The process is different.
It's harder to gather as well, isn't it? That's the thing.
Yeah.
And you're looking at the CPS, they want 80 to 85% before they'll even consider a charge. Like they think they're going to get a positive outcome by 80 to 85%. So actually you've got the CPS who are making decisions, and they're really, if you think about it, already judge and jury before you've even got as far as court.
It's shocking, isn't it? And a police officer, to get to that stage, jumps through hoops as well. They jump through the hoop of the evidential test with the DSs, with the DIs, with the CPS. And if you've got a case into court, I'm going to say now, you're 100% there. You, as a police officer, you know they're guilty.
Yeah.
And to all the victims of crimes right now, we know what you're telling the truth 95% of the time. Because let's face it, girls, nobody needs police or crime scene investigators in their life until their life's gone badly wrong. You don't need the police until something's gone wrong in your life. And I've got to say, I used to say to the people who I dealt with, I believe you, but I'm going to now engage you with this criminal justice system. And I would push and push and push and push. Sometimes the criminal justice system isn't the right arena for them. That's not what they want.
No.
And sometimes you don't want to subject them to this charade, to this arena of liars. Because every day in a court, someone's lying.
Yeah.
Someone's lying.
It's interesting. I recently went through a trial because I was assaulted. We were walking home, myself and my friend, from a night out, and we saw a guy assaulting a woman. We tried to intervene and we both got assaulted. And we had to fight to get it to court. It took 3 years and the whole court system was a nightmare. The initial police investigation was poor, and then the criminal justice process was poor, and in the end he actually got not guilty, and I couldn't believe it. I couldn't fathom it. It had a significant impact on me, I have to say, and I've said that I would not engage in the criminal justice process again. It's a pantomime.
It is a pantomime.
But then that's awful if that's coming from people like us who we've always advocated for it and tried to get justice.
Yeah. It takes so much out of you, doesn't it?
It does.
Takes so much. No wonder victims give in. 6 years later, they're going to court. I'm in a rape crisis centre with men and women who come out of the shower after I've forensically taken 48 samples from their body. Their body's one of the scenes, as well as the place it happened and the perpetrator's body. Distraught, and I'm asking them to engage, tell me what happened. And you get them to the point. You know, the criminal justice system says, don't let them have counselling, don't say this in court, don't say that. Actually, shut up, let them be whoever they want.
Let them be and say what they want.
In the early days, before video was a thing, before the memorandum of good practice and best evidence came in, I started videoing my victims to show a jury what they looked like then. Because when they were presented in court 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, God forbid, later, they were back together and became almost so sorted out with their lives that with a lot of, they're never fully the same, but they've managed to pick the pieces up and start again and try their very best to get on with their lives and not let those people win.
Yeah.
And I always say to people, you know, if this has happened to you, if you give one bad day to them, they've won. Take every day and have a happy day. Even if it's half an hour, you do something for yourself. You take your life now and be happy as much as you can.
I think that's really great advice.
And once they get into that witness box, they look okay. And the juries are going, well, this isn't what they've said. I need to get off with it. But actually, this is what they were like on this video 3 years ago, broken, distraught, and their journey to get to here has been one of the most courageous.
Yeah.
There's just a lot needs changed.
I agree. It really does. It's just wanted to ask, was your mum's case what motivated you to join the police? Or was it something that you'd always wanted to do? Or how did it come about?
Oh my God, I never wanted to be a cop. I wanted to be a farmer.
Did you?
I did. I thought it'd be great. I wanted to be a farmer or a rock climber because I used to rock climb a lot when I was young.
That is so different.
That's what I really wanted to do. But there was
Especially because
obviously
all your family hated the coppers.
Yeah.
all of them. All of them. Do you know what though? There was a lot of cops in my life making big mistakes. And even as a young teenager, and I thought they were arseholes, most of them.
Yeah.
Really?
And I thought they had huge egos. Some of them came in with a I love me, who do you love attitude. I'm so good, I can catch bullets in my teeth and give policy to God and stop trains by staring at them hard, you know.
We probably know a couple of those that you're talking about.
Yeah,
quite
so we all. So there was a lot of police in my life, and I thought, I can do this better than them. But ultimately, the more questions I had in my hat, and nobody spoke to me about it, nobody said a word right through my foster care years. So I had a lot of questions, and I thought, I want to know the process of a murder investigation. I want to know what happens. And that's what motivated me. So I thought, right, I'm going to have to go and join the police. So even at like 14 or 15, I made a decision. That's where I'm going to go. What do I need to get there? I kind of focused my world on getting in. I was in uniform. You're supposed to do 2 years. I think I did 19 months. And I was taken by a chief inspector who saw that I had talent into an undercover unit straight away. And I did a bit of both.
Straight into
I know.
That's really quick.
Do you know why I didn't speak like a cop? I spoke like a West End road rat and could get down with anybody. And I can leave that behind, that I wasn't programmed like the police.
Yeah.
Anyway, I joined the police, and within, I think, 4 years, I was on murders.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember getting married. We went to the Caribbean to get married to my lovely husband, and I took the exam paper. Honestly, so anal. I'm so anal now, I think, you stupid thing. But I was so focused. He would be lying in the sun having a really nice time. And I'm studying the CID exams, the criminal investigation exams, because I was absolutely hell bent on getting in the police.
That is some drive and focus and motivation. It's really interesting as well that you had all these police in and out of your life and you just decided, no, this is not good enough. I can do this better.
And that quite young.
Yeah.
So I became the detective that I wanted and needed. And I suppose, and some of my bosses used to say to me, Josie, you can knock like windows through doors. You just know what to say. And my background gave me that ability. And I'm not the only one. There's a lot of cops who can do this. But I could read people I was an abused child. I can read a room easily. So the other advocacy is for those children of domestic violence or abuse or the care system generally. If you're thinking about writing them off, think again, because all they need is a chance, but they're going to bring to your table the ability to read a room, to get stuck in, to know what you need, to speak to people. And any child sitting in the care system right now thinking that they're having a really shit time, well, lots of people do.
Yeah.
Modify your behavior and choose what you want to do, because by the time you're 18, no one's going to make decisions for you. So start making them now, 12, 13, 14, 15. Make decisions and you can fly and you can rise with the right attitude, bit of hard work, well, quite a lot of hard work, but don't get yourself into bother because you're just angry. Well, lots of people have shit times. Lots of people live with families and hate their families and they have horrible childhoods. But you've got to be the architect of your own life.
It's true, isn't it? We all have choice over direction. And it is understandable the things that some people go through, particularly like you say in the care system. I can understand how people end up, angry and wanting to lash out and fight back.
And there's nothing wrong with anger. Anger is a good driver. It agitates you into action. Don't knock anger. Sometimes it's the only thing holding you together.
Yeah.
Do you know what? But if you use it in the right way, I mean, my thing was to run. I used to run in the Harriers and then I ran up mountains. But use your anger for good. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to feel all of it. But ultimately, you've got to get on with your own life and choose those days every day that you're going to do something happy.
Yeah, it's where you channel it, isn't it? And also
Yeah.
what you want for yourself out of life.
Yeah.
Sometimes you've got to make things happen,
And
haven't you? Don't
and
just go.
having the foresight that every moment's temporary, and even if you're in care, it's going to be temporary. One day you're not going to be in care. What are you going to do? Start now, because that future is yours to create. Anyway,
Yeah.
I'm rattling on. Sound like some kind of preacher. I don't mean to preach.
You do not know.
It's really
Brilliant
good
advice, isn't it? Brilliant, yeah. And one of the reasons we introduced you is inspirational at the beginning.
Thank you. I've never felt that way until other people have seen it that way. I'm not inspirational. I'm just very normal. I was dealt a shit set of cards in life, and everybody's got a different set of cards that I have to work with. And that's what I did with mine. There's nothing inspirational about it. I just didn't want to live a shitty life.
I think for people who've been through similar to you, though, they would find that inspirational because so many people take that and go down a different route. And you've channeled, like you say, you've channeled your anger into different routes and you've ended up with your career as you have. But a lot of people aren't able to do that or think maybe they're not capable of that. So I think for people to hear from people like yourself who have had that sort of background and how you've turned it around, I think that is really inspirational. Something you should be really proud of. It's amazing.
I don't know whether I like this capable thing because other people sometimes define who you are, their opinions. I was told by my foster mum when I left at 16 and went to live in a bed set on my own, oh, you'll be selling your arse shortly, you become a prostitute because that's all you're worth. I've never listened to anybody. I've come across loads of cops who've had prejudice against us because of my background. I've come across that all the time. And the biggest message I can give to anybody is why are you listening to other people's opinion? What do you think of yourself?
Yeah.
If you think you're okay, then that's all you need.
Just need to be able to look yourself in the mirror every day, don't you? And let's face it, opinions are like arseholes, aren't they? Everyone's got one.
Yeah.
Gordon Bennett. I mean, it doesn't matter, does it? These people just come and go in your life. It's what you think of yourself that matters.
I think the other side of it, though, that's quite inspirational is that the fact that you've taken all of that trauma and then decided that actually you want to work in that field and do good with it and actually be the detective and the officer that you never had. So then it goes on to that ripple effect and then the amount of people's lives you must have touched as an officer and a detective. Yeah. And it's that probably the insight that you had has allowed you to be able to deal with them in a completely different way potentially to other officers.
Yes, and sharing my story with a lot of people and saying, listen, I'm sitting in front of you here as a detective sergeant today, but this is not who I was all my life. I think helped a lot of victims. And don't let this define you. We're going to get you through this system and we're going to do what's right for you, but you're in control of it. And I'll tell you honestly at every stage what's happened. And you try your best. Some victims just want to be believed. They don't want to engage with it because, like you say, Ange, the criminal justice system's horrific. It's a horrific place to put somebody vulnerable.
I have to say, the day that we met you at that podcasting event, that was the day that I got the not guilty. The trial had just finished that day. And I didn't know whether I'd make it or not because I was in a state, but I thought, no, push yourself. And then listening to you talk actually gave me some peace and some comfort. And some of the things you said that you're reflecting on here about being the archetype of your own life made me think, actually, yeah, you know what, you're right. This is not going to define me. It really, it really helped me a lot.
It's very kind of you to say, but I hate public speaking. I'm happy doing this, but I'm so out of my depth in those arenas. Don't
You're
like
so
it.
good.
Yeah, you wouldn't have guessed
Oh my God, stop it. If it's any consolation, if it's any consolation to you, you did make me laugh my head off, so I was very happy to be there.
Oh, that's good.
That's good, because I was like a little zombie. So I was just like,
you've turned such harrowing things that you've seen. You can't describe the smell of a dead body that's been there a while, or something that's violent, or the iron smell that stays in the air when there's just claret, we used to call it, blood everywhere.
Claret,
And you've made it sound quite like it is interesting, quite a fun thing to do. Is that all for me to say it's a fun? Because I'm very aware that these are people, but you have to have a kind of detachment on some level so that you can do your job and do the next job and the next job and the next job. You know,
it is true. Well, it's fun for us because we're meeting so many amazing different people and with different backgrounds and different stories, which is
that's it. And the police, it's an utter privilege to be, especially a detective, to be a police officer and go and help people. They're not always that grateful for it, but the thing is, they're allowing you into their life at their most vulnerable, at their most needy, at their most distraught, and they go into a state of what we call hypervigilance, hyper-awareness.
Yeah.
Everything you say and do to that person really, really matters because they remember it forever. It might be the only encounter with the police ever.
That's it, isn't it?
You know, so it's so important that from the outset they get it right, and they often get it wrong, and that's when mistakes happen.
Of course, you worked such serious crimes, and you worked a lot of domestic violence crimes. Did that ever re-trigger the trauma from your mum's case for you during certain investigations, or how did that impact you?
Well, every time I saw a woman who'd been strangled by a partner, I saw my mum's face. I saw the capillary blood vessels bursting around the face into the eyes, and you know yourselves, you can kind of tell the gravity of how far she was near death. I remember every single dead baby by name that I've ever dealt with.
Do you?
And often that is not suspicious. It's just because they haven't died in hospital or a hospital, you know. It's very, very rare. Infanticide is very rare. But I remember forensically, you're there to do a job like you are.
Yeah.
And I can remember being in a casualty department of the hospital with the doctors and nurses and this dead baby in the arms still of our mum who was addicted to drugs. So obviously they called the police because they thought she'd been neglected or she'd done something, you know, she'd been a drug dependent child when she was born. And I remember trying to coax the mother to give me the baby. And I'm saying, can I put little, I'm not going to say her name for argument's sake, I'll call her Julie. Can I take little Julie off you and put her in this lovely warm cot over here, please? Because your arms must be aching and you've had such a trauma. I'd rather give you a hug, right? In my head, I'm thinking, I need to get that baby out of her arms because she's crushing it. If she hasn't caused it any injury and it's died, she's going to get prosecuted for doing something to it. And I didn't want the mother to be prosecuted for something she hadn't done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've got this head on, your forensic head on, like you girls have all the time. You need to preserve that evidence because the evidence will tell you what's happened. But actually, there's a human factor here. This woman's hanging on to her baby because she can't let go because she's stuck in this horrific place.
Human side's so hard.
I think you could speak to any cop anywhere. I'm not special. They all do it every day. It's an extraordinary job. And they all do extraordinary things like you two did. And every cop everywhere, right across the world, can tell these stories. We've all got thousands of them.
But it's still, I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? You have had trauma upon trauma upon trauma from the beginning of your life through to your mum going missing, also believing, you know, that your dad is the one that killed your mum, to then being put into care and then being abused yourself, and then moving into the police. But then in the police, you see trauma after trauma after trauma. Yeah. How have you coped with it all over the years? Do you have any coping mechanisms? I mean, we know you're a bit bonkers.
Yeah,
I am a bit bonkers. I'm happy to be described as bonkers.
A bit bonkers.
And a good laugh.
In all seriousness, like how have you coped over the years?
Do you know what? My go-to things to cope are walking in the hills, walking in nature, and dogs. Rescue a dog. And those two things, running, exercise, pretty good. It hasn't always been like that. I was bizarrely, everything I've been through in my life, which, you know, obviously my plate was quite full at times. The only time I ever resorted to counselling and medication, I went onto an antidepressant for a while. It was when I was being professionally bullied in the police by an absolute tosspot who ended up being sacked because he was criminally active, and I was kept shouting about it and shouting about it and shouting about it. And they were slow to react, they were slow to do anything, and I wasn't going to go away because he shouldn't have been a police officer. He started damaging my car, he started sending letters to my home address.
Oh my goodness.
He was really like going for it. Anyway, I went to the GP and I said, I've been through quite a bit in my life, but I've never felt this low. But I need a chemical smile because I'm not going to let him see. I need to keep going. I don't want to skip a beat. I don't want to take a day on the sick. I don't want to let him see one. Maybe that's my nature. And I said, but at the minute, I'm flat as a witch's tit and I need to move on. And I took citalopram, I think it was called, for about 6 months. And then eventually, well, I'm not going to go into the details. It ended up on Looking Off eventually anyway onto the BBC, and he was sacked. But that episode showed me, yeah, you are fallible. You can break, and and so yeah, it just tipped us over the edge because he was getting stabbed from within the organisation.
And that's often where your support network is, isn't it? So then if your support network's part of that bit that's actually attacking you, then that's really difficult.
The thing that sustained us was a sense of self. I know who I am. I know what I'm capable of. The victims that I've dealt with, I took great satisfaction from doing my very best for them.
Yeah.
And that was appreciated a lot. I had quite a good reputation, and I think maybe all of those things give you a sense of self. Plus, I do wander up in the hills and the mountains on my own sometimes because I don't have anything. I mean, let's face it, girls, what else can happen to us?
Yeah, so I don't, it's a good point.
If I'm away from people, I'm safer. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the threat of people around you that make you unsafe sometimes. But don't get me wrong, I do have hypervigilance. I'm still a bit crazy. I'm on the go a lot. I swear, like a navvy. I mean, I cannot really string a sentence together for very long. I'm doing exceptionally well for you.
I was going to say you're doing really well.
And I love traveling. And like I said before, I create the life I wanted.
Yeah.
And know who you are, trust your inner. Find out who you are, find out what you're capable of, and fly to your strength, play to your strengths.
And it's really interesting because we've talked about it previously, and you think about things that have happened in your own life, and definitely not anywhere near to the extent of yours, of course, but like you say, some people go through bad things, but then as doing these jobs, you see a lot of trauma. And we've said that when we've felt at our lowest or sought help, it's often been because of the people around us. The people, not actually the job or the trauma, but the people.
Yeah, I totally agree. So
it's really
and actually,
that
says more about them than you in hindsight. You don't know that at the time, but if they're giving you a hard time, what's wrong with them? What's happening to them that they can't manage or perform their job the right way? Or if they're managers, they can't manage their staff properly because they're having a hard time. Well, that's not very professional, is it?
Well, no, this is it, isn't it? And it's often about their insecurities, isn't it?
Yeah, it totally is. And I think if you, like you girls, if you know who you are, know what you're capable of, have a good sense of self, anyone else's ego doesn't really affect you. They can rattle on all day, with their big egos and their insecurities, and I'll sit and go, yeah. I mean, I remember my staff, they still come and visit us, bless them. The inspector used to come in to me sometimes and say, have we done this? Have we done this? And I say, I'm on all of it. It's all done. Don't worry, it's done, right? And the staff used to say to us, we're doing that, Sarge. Do I have to really do that? I was shite. He'll not remember tomorrow and it's all sorted, and it's about that, the middle managers managing the bosses and managing the staff.
Yeah.
It is a hard job to do both, and you've got to obviously make sure that you're doing everything right. But some of the suggestions they come out with,
ludicrous.
These guys at the front down, have you forgotten the smell of a shitty house because you're sitting there behind your desk and haven't been sleep in it, for wanting a better word, for a long time.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But as long as you have, it's such a hard job that you've done, we've done, every crime investigator does, every murder detective does, anybody who's dealing with any kind of serious category crime, whether that be counter-terrorism or anything. You have to have that sense of humour and comrades who you can laugh with, and the confidence to go, yeah, I've totally cocked up there. I cocked up loads of times. I say, oops, done that wrong. And if it was with a victim, I would tell them, whether it was with my colleagues. But it's about, I used to say, you can't put the shit back in the horse, but it really matters how you clean it up.
It's true.
You know?
It's that honesty, isn't it? And integrity.
Yeah.
Which is what policing should be all about.
And actually, policing and your job is all about the shit out the horse.
Yeah, that's true.
All you do is clear it up, but actually, how you clear it up really affects that person's life forever.
It does.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah.
I really like that analogy.
Yeah, me too. Gonna have to keep
very
that
northern,
one,
isn't it?
Yeah.
Very northern, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have to keep that one.
Yeah.
Now, you joined Northumbria in the 80s, wasn't it?
Yeah, late 80s.
Late
early
80s,
90s.
early 90s. And you have paved the way for a lot of women, I think. You've flown the feminist flag and often been the only female in a male-dominated environment. How did you find that?
Awful. Absolutely awful at times. But actually also a privilege. And I irritate people. They don't like me. I'm a difficult woman to some men. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
When I first joined the job, I remember being a uniform cop, and this lady had come in to the police station. She was a nurse, actually. And I was brand new out the packet. I didn't even know how to wear my helmet the right way. I just was so brand new. And she was in the front office in the Nick. And I remember the sergeant, who was an absolute dinosaur, who just needed sacked. He went, get in there and find out how many fingers she's had up her fanny. That's what he said to us.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
Wowzers.
It was disgusting for me to hear it, never mind, but they were dinosaurs and they were wild. And I went into this with this lady, and I took her account of what had happened to her. And she had been raped, and she was showing, in hindsight, I didn't know this at the beginning, she was showing all the signs of acute trauma. So what I said to them when I came out, I said she needs to go up to the hospital because there was no rape suites. There was nowhere to go. But I said and I knew, and I wanted to get her away from these idiots in the police station.
Yeah.
So I took her up to the hospital and sat there with her at night, during the night, until, and in those days, even the doctors weren't trained to take forensic samples.
Oh.
So it was me taking them with a nurse. We didn't, it was just, the doctor came at 8 o'clock the next morning, apparently, and did a better forensic test, but we were taking like mouth swabs from her and things like that because she wanted to drink, but I didn't want to lose any evidence that might have been in her mouth. But then you've got
that's so good, so early on to even be thinking about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but it was because she told me what had happened to her, and you can fill in the gaps yourself. And I was thinking, God, what do I do? What do I do? What am I going to get wrong? And the next night when I got back onto shift, I got wrong for sitting in the hospital with her for 8 hours and not being a resource on the shift. So in 1992, I got the opportunity to work with much more talented women than me. And it was one of 12 women across the force who started putting in the sexual offences liaison scheme now. Solo officers, we now call them. And the centres were set up by Caroline Peacock, and we recruited GP women. We forensically trained them to do the Ellis Fraser's suites, the Rona Cross suites, and that's rolled out right across the country. Fantastic. And my part in that was I was a young detective. And at that time, you dealt with the victim a lot and the follow-up statements. This is before the Memorandum of Good Practice and the Butler Schloss inquiries, where you started videoing victims and you could get best evidence and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
So I would sit with the victims, and if I said to you now, Angela, tell me about the last time you had a shag, I want every graphic detail. You would be like this. Oh my God, I can't tell you that, even if it was a pleasant experience. We're asking these women to tell us about what's happened to them when they don't even know how to verbalize it, and they're embarrassed and they don't know who you are. And can you imagine being in that position? So anyway, what I did was, for all the police officers, especially the frontline ones, the initial response, the green booklets that you see now, well, the male detectives would take the perpetrator and interview them. When you got the investigation, one set of cops was asking a load of questions of the victim, and the other one was asking a load of questions of the perpetrator, and they weren't married up. The evidence could have been better. So what I did was put together an A to Z of probably every type of crime, because it follows a pattern, it follows a process.
Yeah.
Sexual offences have that extra added thing. So you could take this booklet to the perpetrator, to the victim, or actually to a victim of a burglary, and go through it, the scene, the body, place it happened, communications before and afterwards, the whole shebang. And that became work in practice. That was my bit of it.
Amazing.
Lots of other women did lots of other brilliant things, but we all had a portfolio, and we put it all together, and it became this massive thing that now every cop in the country gets trained in, and they're now specialists.
Wow.
It's ironic we call them solo, because they are on their own all the time.
Yeah.
And if anyone's a colleague of a solo, when they come back to the office with 48 samples, put the kettle on for them and say, how are you?
Yeah.
How are you? Have you had anything to eat today?
Yeah.
Because
it's not an easy job, is it?
It's not, no. But we get better. I think sometimes cops get cynical. Well, I know for a fact they do, because I'm a cynical cop myself at times. And if you lose your humanity when you're dealing with people who need you, then you've lost the plot. You need to move into a different job.
Yeah, that's what we often say, isn't it?
We do. It's one of the things we talk about.
Yeah, I bet.
Do you think that you faced a lot of barriers then in progressing? Because your career progressed really well, and you've done so many amazing things. But you obviously faced quite a lot of sexism and some bullying.
Oh yeah, totally. Some of it's still going on. It's part of a judicial review into the misogyny around Operation Sanctuary. So I'm zipped still on some. But yeah, I did. I also worked a lot with some brilliant people. So you see the worst of humanity, and not all cops. We're giving cops a bad name. They're not all bad.
No.
95% of them are pretty good. And I've seen bravery. It's renewed my faith in men and women. I've seen people be brave and do things at huge risks to their personal safety that I haven't followed, because I thought, bloody hell, that's too much for me. Jumping into cellars after people who are attacking and have got knives and they've got no way out, and it's you and them, and all kinds of brave. I've seen, like, my cops turn up at scenes where, they push the door down, for life or limb, you bowl straight in. And that's one of the things that crosses over with your arena. Police officers have that agenda where their first priority is to protect life or limb.
Yes.
Your first priority is to protect evidence.
Yeah.
And sometimes they clash on that. I'm not saying cops should pull in too many of them and start walking around and start eating a pasture like a Fargo. That's out of orders, no.
Yeah.
But sometimes crime scenes are wrecked because they're going in because they're looking, not wrecked, but interfered with.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to save life or limb.
Which
and I've seen that happen so many times. And then produce a screwdriver from their suitcase and start putting the door back together so that the house is secure and the woman's secure, putting blankets. I've seen some extraordinary kindness and extraordinary braveness. So it's been a privilege to witness both.
That's really nice to hear. Do you think that attitudes have changed since the 80s, 90s?
Yes. And I think each generation that comes in has less tolerance. My generation are full of dinosaurs and old fossils who say things that shouldn't really be said. And I would be sacked now for some of the things I would, what you're still sitting there for, move. I'm not woke at all. But the generations, I mean, the cops I joined with, when I joined, were there from the 70s. They were the ones who didn't investigate my mum's murder, my mum's missing from home report.
Yeah.
They were awful. They were bloody awful at times. All you have to do is look at that documentary on Jack the Ripper in 1975 to see how the police bungled all that, to understand that 2 years before they were doing my mum's murder. But what you have to do every generation, and I've only scratched an itch with the work I did over 30 years, is you just move the needle in the right direction.
Yeah.
You move the tolerance, and society changes. The police are reflective of the society they're in. So if standards are dropping in society, they're dropping in the police.
In policing.
If society's tolerating something, then so is the police. And there's a lot of decision makers who are getting things vastly wrong, vastly wrong. But that's another podcast, another rant.
Yeah.
Yeah, whole another area, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Do you think that the police often struggle to confront their own failings?
Oh, every day. What there used to be that thing called the confidence agenda, and it came from government. Don't tell the public what's really happening because it'll knock their confidence. And that shuts people down. And the lack of accountability, the best thing you can do when you've cocked up is go, God, I've cocked up. This is the reason why it's happened. This is what's happened, but this is how we're going to put it right.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be a bit feminist here. Sometimes it's a male trait. Men hate making mistakes and hate admitting they're making mistakes. Big organizations are the same, whether that's NHS, the police,
it's
big organizations. And they don't like saying, we have really cocked up here. It's like trying to turn an oil tank around, isn't it?
It is.
Enforce change in any organization. It happens so slowly, but it does happen.
True.
And it is getting better. It is getting better. And I think generally people are much more able to come to the police and report things than they were. But that's overwhelmed the police, which is why I said at the beginning, policing shouldn't be left to just the police. Because if you took, say, for example, missing from homes away from policing until the investigators decided this is fishy, this is suspicious, that whole genre there would free up thousands of police hours a week. CSIs, the whole process, start to finish, give police back thousands of hours of policing for other things.
That's what's needed, isn't it?
It is, but there's no staff. And it's not a priority until it goes wrong. Until crime's through the roof and they're rioting. But police officers generally are pretty brave and full of stress. They might have gone from that baby death, from that road traffic accident, to someone who's complaining about parking in their street. And sometimes in their heads they're going, oh, for fuck's sake, right?
Yeah, shut up.
Hard to compute, isn't it?
And it comes across their face. And then there's a complaint on the desk. That police officer didn't deal with me very well. Mistakes happen. Nobody's saying they're not. But it's about being professional.
It is.
I think learning from those mistakes as well. Like you say, we don't often do anything with it until something huge happens. But actually, there's lots of little things that come up that if they were rectified then and there would impact like future investigations as well. Absolutely, and that's where the organisational memory comes in, and there isn't one. And it has to filter straight into training. I think they're better now, but they weren't when I was serving. The mistakes happen, and these people get promoted because they've buried their mistakes, but they're actually really shitty at their job. But actually, if those mistakes are brought out and the lessons learned, then it becomes policy. Yeah, exactly. Well, whilst we're talking about failures and learning from there, is there any big systematic investigation failures that you think were part of your mum's case that are kind of still in existence today?
God, if they are, we're really lost, aren't we?
Yeah.
The systematic failures, I would say, have been abolished. They've gone from the minute reporting somebody missing and getting taken seriously. And now there's a 10-point checklist of cops to fill in. So it's kind of more processed. There's a process for everything. So they have to make sure they tick A, B, C, and D before it comes to the sergeant. And if the sergeant says, yeah, and the sergeant reviews that missing from person every single day, every shift change actually. So every 10 hours, 8 hours, those missing from homes are going to be reviewed. Now that depends on the quality of the person reviewing them. It's always the people problem.
Yeah.
When you've got people who want to deviate from a system that works, you might have a problem, or people who can't think outside the box. And actually, if you're going to be a police officer, you simply need an investigative mindset. If you're not nebby, if you're not curious, like yourselves, if you haven't got that what if, forget it. Just forget it, because you're
just got to be nosy,
time.
haven't you? Just be really nosy. I get accused of being nosy all the time. I'm like,
yeah, you do. Yeah.
That's what
I'd like to say professional curiosity, though, Angela.
That sounds so much
let's
better
put
than
it like
nebby.
Yeah, but you do, and if you're not prepared to do that, you can't do it. But mistakes still happen. Mistakes are happening every week, you know, and that's usually
human.
Yeah, but usually at the minute the big mistakes are, they're not taken seriously. The run-ups to these murders, the domestics, the complaints of harassment, the complaints of stalking. I mean, there's no simple answer, because it's also a resourcing issue and many other issues. And every person who deals with anything brings in their own prejudice. You just do. It's part of being a human. It's learning to act without that prejudice that will get you to where you need to be.
That is a very excellent point. Not always easy to do, particularly when you've been in a long time and you keep seeing the same things over and over.
You're a bit jaded, same faces, same families. You're a bit, oh God, what now? But actually, that's not your job. You are getting paid very handsomely to go to that incident and assess it individually with the information you've got right there and then. Doesn't matter.
That's it. Doesn't matter what's been before and what's to come. It's been
the before should give you arrows to your bow to look at the situation better. If the police officer who'd attended my mum's house had been told there'd been a history of domestic violence, which wasn't even documented in 1973, he went in blind. But even if you went in blind, there is a point that you have to start asking the right questions. If you know you're going to a house with markers on it of any kind, that could be firearms, that could be domestic violence, that could be all kinds of child protection issues, anything. You're going in more armed. You should use that as something that is going to heighten your awareness to everything that's going on and everything that's getting said to you.
That's it. It's always about letting the facts and the evidence lead you, isn't it? Rather than trying to make things fit.
Absolutely. And the murders that have gone wrong, especially the one with me mum and the one with Nicky Allen, which was the same senior police investigator, is exactly that mindset. They're trying to bend the evidence to fit the crime. And you can't, we're police officers. We're getting paid to gather evidence. That's our jobs. Gather evidence. Preserve, gather, preserve life, protect life. Okay?
Yeah.
Doesn't it not matter what evidence you get as long as you've gathered it? Because the evidence will show what's happened. And then that stops, especially the job you did. If you keep police officers out of it and tell them what the result is of your work, which is uncontaminated, not diluted, and completely impartial, then they have to work with that. And innocent people don't end up in prison.
Yeah.
And evidence isn't lost or hidden or disposed of. This is why your role in the police, when it came in, was a godsend. You're there to investigate. So follow the evidence, follow what's being put in front of you and the things that aren't. Find the things that aren't.
For our listeners who don't know much about it, can you touch a bit upon the Nicky Allen case and some of the reflections with your mum's case?
Well, I didn't work on the Nicky Allen case because I was too young a rookie. It was 1992 and I'd just joined the police. And for me, the parallel was the murder of little Nicky Allen in Sunderland. Single mum, Sharon Henderson, in the Garths, which was kind of a rough set of flats full of people trying to get by and get on with their lives. And I mean, it doesn't really matter. That doesn't really matter, but I'm setting the scene because I'm going to talk about the police prejudice.
Yeah.
My mum was a West End housewife with no agency, getting by, raising children. This senior investigator comes in, called Barry Stewart, and he's an inspector on my mum's case that went badly wrong. The evidence wasn't gathered initially. It wasn't gathered when missing. The house wasn't searched. The neighbours weren't spoken to. Nothing was done, right? 10 years later, my dad's gone to dig her up, and the evidence was never found. Then in the dig they didn't find her body. So
It's
there's no
called
forensic recovery.
It's called a golden hour, isn't it? Not a golden 10 years.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Failure after failure after failure. This man then goes on to oversee this case of investigation. And poor Nikki Allen had left her home. Her granda lived on the next floor up to the mum. And the mum was in with the granda, and Nikki wanted to go downstairs, ran downstairs. 3 doors down away from her was a paedophile who abducted her and murdered her. But the police came, and some of the police I've spoken to even since still hold that prejudice. This incredible woman, Sharon Henderson, incredible. This is a woman who taught herself as an adult to read and write so she could challenge the authorities who'd written her off as a bad mother.
Wow.
Children were taken into care. The blame was put at her. The police locked up the wrong man. No, the police bungled the investigation so much. They got a guy who was slightly autistic called George Heron, who lived in those flats. And the locals were saying, oh, he's a bit of a weirdo. He should never have been prosecuted. He should have had appropriate adults when interviewing him. But he was forced by continual police pressure and bad interviews into confessing that murder, and he didn't do it. He was sent to prison. His face was slapped. He went through hell, and they got the wrong man. DNA, again, back to your arena. DNA in the future, the cold case review found the DNA on this paedophile who'd moved to the south of England, who'd crept round, and he was a paedophile, he was a convicted paedophile, and he had murdered Nikki Allen. So she wasn't this Sharon Henderson. And the police, and I was there, and I heard the police, oh, she's this, she's a bad mother, she's this, she's, what do you expect? She's a single mother, she had a baby when she was really young, la, la, la. She's not, she's an incredible mother.
So much prejudice.
She's an incredible grandmother.
And how does that mean?
But it was the men.
Gets murdered and it's okay?
Exactly.
Men.
Exactly. Had she been living in Buckingham Palace and there was a paedophile 3 doors, it was not Sharon's fault. And she should have been supported and cared for and scooped up. She was traumatized, and her life's been ruined by police action, and I shouldn't really talk about her because she's got her own agency. But it was that rage that I felt for that man and that prejudice against that poor woman and the horrific thing that's happened to her that made me contact the Centre for Women's Justice still. Yeah. And I still sometimes stream at the television going, they're still bloody doing it. Why are they doing that, They're still doing that. So yes. I can't touch on all the details of the murder because it's not my place to do that.
Yeah.
But what I can touch on is the act without prejudice. What's wrong with these people? Everyone's just trying to get by and bring a family up. Well, no matter where you are in the world, no matter what you do, you're just trying to get on with your life.
Yeah.
You ask the police for help. And sometimes they turn on you, and they turned on Sharon Henderson.
It is horrendous, isn't it? It does happen, sadly, doesn't it? When the people who are there to protect you actually end up turning on you.
And that's about every police officer turning up a scene with their own prejudice in their head.
Yeah.
They did, No, what are you doing that for? You're there to gather evidence. You are there to investigate.
Yeah.
You are getting paid. Even if you don't like what you're doing, there's a paycheck going into your bank account every month that's asking you to do this A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Do that. If you don't like it, it's your job.
I think some of it, though, is ego and power. I remember meeting some officers, and the minute they put that uniform on, they just turn into
idiots,
egotistical maniacs. Yeah.
And you have to say to them, would you speak to your sister, partner, mother like that? Would you? Because that's what you're doing. But that is also, some of the mistakes happen because of pressure to get a result.
To get results, yeah.
So the senior ranking officer there wanted results. You want the public want to know who's done this. They're under pressure to get a result. So the cops get blinded.
That's when they start bending it and making it fit rather than
otherwise
the evidence.
Otherwise the whole community feels unsafe. There's a child murderer amongst us.
Yeah.
That's just, and so there's a lot of different things, but it's still, I mean, I'm hoping it gets better. I haven't been a police officer for a long time, but God, I hope it's better than it was.
You got to hope, haven't you?
Yeah.
So you've retired now. Are you missing it? Do you miss it at all?
No.
No. Not one job.
That was a very quick response.
Do you know what? To get into your bed at night and not have to get out of it, not to go on night shift, not to be freezing cold in the middle of the night, not to be out, not to be exhausted all the time, not to go in every single day and deal with harrowing things. It does take a toll on you. It does. I mean, I worked on murders and rapes for a lot of time before it started really affecting my family life and my marriage. You can't deal with the bad behaviour of mainly men every day, especially sexually, and then come home and have a happy family life, a happy marriage. So at that point, I thought, oh, I'm going to leave that particular role. And I went into the undercover units and I went into counter-terrorism. So at one point, I thought the world was full of murderers and rapists. Then I started thinking the world's full of cocaine and terrorists and guns. And no matter which world you're in, it's quite bad, isn't it? That's what policing is.
That's all quite dark, isn't it? Because your husband's also a police officer, isn't he?
He's a retired detective sergeant.
He's retired as well.
Yeah.
How did you balance that? Was it quite nice to have somebody who to kind of share that with, or was it
2 kids and a big mortgage? We just kept going. But also, I think firstly, I married him. We got to know each other before all of this career thing took off. And I fell in love with him massively. I still love him. He's still my best friend. Honestly, I don't think I could have gone through life without him, because he's carried us at times when I couldn't carry myself, and vice versa.
How lovely.
We had 2 crazy kids. We knew, I suppose, because we're both police officers, because this question really should be given to me children. What do they think of having 2 parents? Because it might have been really weird.
That's a good point.
It's probably more weird for them than it was for us. But we could leave it at the door. We could say things and talk to each other about it, and we'd just get it. We'd just get it. Names, faces, places, situations, and we just got it. But on the whole, we didn't have to talk about it, because we used to come home and go, he needs to go to scouts, he's going to rugby, she's off to swimming, she's horse riding, and you were just busy.
The other part of life took over.
Thank God. And then we retired together and kind of went, oh my God, who are you again? And bought a motorhome and spent 6 months of the year like this together, and we'll have the best blast. We've also both got that very dry, black, jaded sense of humour that you two exhibit now and then as well,
Now and then.
No.
Yeah. I think to other people we're quite weird. Like, I think we're in acquired taste as a couple. Thank you to the friends we've got who put up with us, especially me. But it's you make it work, don't you? It was my job. It was his job. And it was a privilege to do it, a privilege to get the answers that I got.
Fantastic. And I think this might be kind of a nice place to start rounding up, but just to finish off, your mum's body is still never been found, and you've not got the answers that you wanted, so it's still classed as a cold case. How do you cope with those unknowns, and what's next for you as you move through retirement?
It's hard to cope with that unknown, because everybody who has to deal with death, and all of us have to, every single day, everywhere, we all have to deal with the death of our parents at some point. And I've had to deal with the death of both of my parents under incredibly unusual circumstances.
Yeah.
I have never had closure in the fact that I can't visit a place and say, that's where my mum was. This is actually really what happened. I've never found a body. I don't know whether anybody will. Maybe, Northumberland's littered with half the soldiers from the Roman wall. There's always jaw bones, thigh bones, and all kinds of things coming in, as you know.
Yeah.
People ring up and say, I found this, that, and the other. She might be found, she might never be found. I think maybe he's telling people about a story, actually, with Julie Bindel in the podcast, Dig Up Your Mam. That was quite cathartic and somewhere to put my mum. I put her on the internet forever.
Yeah.
Sometimes having no closure is the closure. Having no answer now, and I often think, if somebody did find her, what would they do? The police would go, they would dig up a bag of bones, put it in a box, give me the box, and I would put the box back in the ground somewhere else. What is the point of that?
Let her rest.
Leave her rest. I still know she was my mum. I still felt loved by her. It's over. For me, I won't get closure. I would quite like the police to close it down. And I'm trying to campaign for cold cases over 50 years of age where they think there is a suspect and all the circumstantial evidence points the right way. What is the point of them having a cold case about it anymore? So I think the only thing that's really persecuting us in a way is the fact that the police review it every 7 years. And their mistakes back in 1982 and the arrogance and the lack of engaging with people who know about forensic science and what was available at the time has left me with no closure. And they can't close there. The PNC's still got a missing from home from 1973, the Police National Computer of Anne Law.
It's about finding a place of acceptance. And like you said earlier, you're choosing your life. You're choosing how your life is structured, what you want from it.
Yeah, and what a lovely place to put her on the internet forever. So I thank Julie Bindel and Samantha Smith for producing it, for grabbing my story and making it and putting it out there. What a lovely thing for me to, I know it doesn't sound lovely, but it's the best I've got.
So Joanne, thank you so much again for taking your time out and for joining us and telling us your story and sharing experience with us, both personal and professional. It's been an absolute pleasure as always. And for our listeners, don't forget to go and check out the podcast that Joanne's made with Julie Bindel. It's Dig Up Your Mam, and it is fascinating, harrowing, interesting. Once I listened to it, that was it. I was in for the full 6 episodes. I did it all in one night. So go and head over and listen to it.
Thank you. That's very kind of you to say, and thank you so much for inviting me on. It's a fantastic podcast. I really enjoyed it. Keep going, girls. Keep going. It's really, really interesting. Thank you.
Thank you to you again, Joanne, and thank you to all of our listeners for joining us for this episode. I'm sure you'll have found it as interesting as we have. And we will be back in a fortnight's time where we will take you back under the barrier tape.